Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here, and welcome back to a new viewer on the channel. And today, guys, I'm going to be continuing my AFL 2024 round reviews and round previews in today's video, reviewing round 16 and previewing round 17, starting off with the previous round review, round 16. And on the Friday night, it was the Lions that defeated Melbourne by 5 points at the Gabba in what was an amazing game of footy. First game on the Saturday saw the Western Bulldogs take care of North Melbourne by 17 points. And the other game as well was the Swans Fremantle defeating the Swans by 1 point. The Swans have lost another game, and the Dockers managed to do it. In the twilight, it was the Suns defeating the Pies by 11 points in a close game which Collingwood didn't win. And then the Crows defeated the Giants by 16 points on Saturday night in a bit of an upset. And also the Cats defeated the Bombers by 45 points. First game on the Sunday was another one of those low-scoring games, but the Power defeating St Kilda by 2 points. The Blues took care of Richmond comfortably by 61 points, and the Hawks defeated West Coast by 61 points to wrap up round 16. Having a look at the ladder as well, heading into the round, the Swans and the Blues are ahead. The Swans comfortably ahead in first, ahead of Carlton, and then Carlton are ahead of third. But really from third down to 13th, it is so close at the moment. It is such a tight competition. And the Coal Medal at the moment, Charlie Curnow is in first, followed by Ben King and Jake Waterman. Now time for the round 17 preview, and on the Friday night, it is a massive game of footy, this one. Collingwood versus Essendon at the MCG, big game. They drew on Anzac Day this year as well, both these two sides, so it's going to make it even bigger in a big Friday night blockbuster clash. Both sides lost last week, both sides going to be looking for a win. It is so tight at the moment, the competition, that if you have a couple of off weeks, that is enough to see you go from fourth down all the way to outside the 8, especially if results don't go your way. So this is a big game, because the loser of this game will be on a 2-game losing streak, and that is not what these two sides want. Both these two sides would see themselves playing finals, and both these two sides would see themselves making top 4 by the end of the year, and this is a huge win for whoever gets it. It's going to be a big confidence booster for the rest of the year for this. Whoever wins this game is going to get a huge confidence boost for the rest of the year. And both these two sides do face some tricky opponents over the course of the next few weeks as well. So big game this one is going to be for momentum, for confidence. Both these two sides need that. I think this is going to be a great game for footy, but I think the Pies is going to be a little bit too strong winning this game by 14 points. But this one should be a cracker. First game on the Saturday is going to be North Melbourne taking on Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium. And this is another big game as well. Every game becoming big now, just because how tight the competition is. Every game that plays a team, every game that has a team that could potentially be playing finals is just becoming such a huge game, especially this one for the Gold Coast Suns, because if they can win this game, that means they would have won their first away game for the season. Their away games this year for Gold Coast have not been great. They've performed horribly on the road compared to how they have at their home venue, the Fortress People First Stadium on the Gold Coast. They've been playing very well up there. They're unbeaten there, but haven't won on the road yet. This week they get North Melbourne. They do have a few winnable games on the road, the Gold Coast Suns, and of course every game at home for them is winnable. But this game just simply they've got to win this game on the road. North Melbourne have been looking good. They've been improved recently. Last week against Western Bulldogs was not their best. They did end up coming back late, but this is a big game for the Gold Coast Suns. I think they will get the win, but I don't think it's going to be in any means a convincing fashion. I think this will be a great game of footy where the Suns will win by just 5 points. Now, the other game as well, Saturday afternoon, is going to be Port Adelaide taking on the Western Bulldogs at the Adelaide Oval. This one is another massive game in terms of finals on the line at 7th versus 9th. The Western Bulldogs, they're looking great. They have been coming really well recently. Western Bulldogs, they are charging hard at the finals at the moment. They're looking really good. They're getting their team back on the park, and they're playing some great footy at the moment, the Western Bulldogs. Last week wasn't their best week. It was just an okay win against the Kangaroos, but they've been improved recently, North Melbourne as well. But this is a big test against the Power, who are in 7th, and if they can get the win here, they'll be feeling confident with a couple of wins in their past few weeks. They'd be feeling confident that they could potentially make finals this year. This is a make it or break it game for these two sides. For the loser, it's probably going to be hard for them to play finals football from here. So this one all of a sudden becomes one of those big 8-point games. This is such a 50-50 game, but I do think the Western Bulldogs will be too strong. When they're on, and they're getting a great team back. I think the Western Bulldogs are coming really hard and charging hard at the finals. I think they'll win this game. Now in round 17, the twilight game is going to be the Cats and the Hawks at GMHBA Stadium. This one is another one of those big games. The Hawks, of course, sit in 13th, but that's probably as low as the finals race goes this year, but they're still in it at the moment, and the Cats, of course, are in 5th, and they're most definitely still in it as well. They played really well last week. the Cats against the Bombers, they got on a surge, they had the momentum, and from there they were always going to be hard to beat, and they showed exactly that. They were going to be too hard to beat, and they ran away pretty comfortably. The Hawks, they played really well in the West against the West Coast Eagles as well. The Eagles definitely didn't put up their best performance ever, but the Hawks did play really well. They're just like the Western Bulldogs, they are charging really hard at making the finals. They're one of the informed teams at the moment. The Hawks, they're playing really well. They're just connecting really well as well. The Hawks, so I'd give them every chance in this game to pull off the upset win. I think they're definitely around the mark and a good chance to do it. It's just going to be where they can nullify Tom Stewart and where they can keep him down. If they can do that, they're definitely a good chance to win this game. I reckon the Hawks. I think the Cats will be too strong. I think they are going to rediscover their best form at the end of the year and get a win here by 16 points, not by much. I think this will be a great game of footy. Saturday night at NG Stadium is going to be the Giants taking on the Blues. And this one a few weeks ago looked to be one of those big blockbuster clashes, but the Giants over the past couple of weeks have really fallen off, and now they're in 10th spot. As I said before, the competition is so tight that at the moment, teams cannot be affording losses, and you can't go on a 3-game losing streak. Again, it's really hard to gain momentum from there, which is definitely something which this competition is based off of, momentum within games and within like seasons and blocks of games. So momentum is so huge at the moment, and when you get on a losing streak, it can be hard sometimes to turn that around. And the Blues, well, they are on a really good winning streak at the moment. They're playing their best footy, and I mean the Tigers did match up with them last week as well for half the game, but from there on they just went on a big surge and were always going to be hard to beat from that stage. And the Giants, well, it was a really disappointing loss for them. They went in favourites and in the end got beaten pretty comfortably. 16 points was the final margin, but it did seem a bit more than that. And the Blues, of course, that 61-point win over Richmond, which was just them powering off to brilliance. So I think this one could have been a good game, but I think the Blues are going to play really well, and it might be tight, but I just think the Blues can get on a rampage at any time. They're looking really dangerous this year, and I think they'll win this game by 27 points. Whether or not it's close, I'm not quite sure, but I think if it is close, I think the Blues could power on away, just like they did last week. The other game on Saturday night is going to be Fremantle taking on Richmond at Optus Stadium. And this one is another one of those big games for Fremantle. This is just a game they cannot afford to drop. They did play really well. That 1-point win against Sydney last week was a fantastic result for them. They played really well. And Sydney did have a bit of an off day, but the Dockers played really well. They matched the pressure and went higher. And Sydney's slow start did cost them last week for the first time really this year. And well, the Tigers, they've gotten a few upsets, but they've been competitive, but it's going to be hard this week. It's a trip over to the West, and they've just been ravaged with injury this year. So it has been pretty hard for Richmond to play well. That's why they do sit in 17th spot. Of course, some lower sides can still play spoiler and ruin some teams' finals hopes. The Tigers could ruin the Dockers game, but I think the Dockers are going to be too strong, winning this game by 53 points, could even be more. First game on the Sunday is going to be Melbourne taking on West Coast at the MCG. This one is a big game for Melbourne. West Coast, their last away trip to Marvel Stadium, they played really well, going down to the Bombers by just 30 points. But then that disappointing game last week against the Hawks at home, where they got smashed pretty comfortably, was definitely disappointing. And well, Melbourne, they played alright the week before against North Melbourne, but last week they did play really well against Brisbane and were unlucky to win it, but just faded out in that last quarter again like they did the week before. So if this game is close at 3/4 time, the Eagles could definitely be in with a shot for the upset win, but I do think Melbourne will be too strong. They're going to have to find some form at some stage, and I think they'll win this game pretty comfortably by 40 points. The Sunday Channel 7 game is going to be St Kilda taking on Sydney at Marvel Stadium. This one is, well, another big game. The Swans did lose last week to the Dockers, but you'd be expecting them to bounce back in this one. And the Saints, well, they normally play in low-scoring games like they did last week against Port Adelaide, losing by 2 points. Just due to a few little errors, they did just let themselves get a little bit too far behind, where it was going to be a little bit too hard to catch up in a low-scoring game. And well, the Swans, they have been the best team all year, and that they were a little bit off last week, but the Dockers definitely did bring their best, and the Swans are a little bit below what they normally would bring. I do think the Swans will be too strong in this game. The Saints, there's just a few things going wrong at the moment. I think they'll get smashed here pretty comfortably. I think the Swans will win this game by 49 points. And to end off the round, it's going to be the Lions taking on the Adelaide Crows at the Gabba. This one is another big finish to the round. The Lions, this is a game they do not want to drop. They're in 8th at the moment, and of course would slip out if they lost this game, because the amount of movement there'll probably be a lot of movement this round in terms of in terms of that 3rd to 13th area. And this is just such a huge game for the Lions. They're a chance at top 4 at the moment now as well. They've still got a very good bunch of winnable Gabba games against very winnable opponents and some very winnable away games as well. They're coming with a charge too, the Lions. They've been looking really good recently over the past few weeks. And they're going to be fighting hard for a spot in the top 8 and maybe even the top 4. I think they'll be too strong in this game, winning this game by 32 points. I wouldn't say the Crows are completely out of it. They could be in for a chance with a bit of an upset, but I do think the Lions will be too strong. And at the Gab, they've been playing really well. And the Crows, despite playing well last week, I think it'll just be too hard to get the win up at the Gabba. So my round 17 tips are going to be Collingwood, Gold Coast, the Western Bulldogs, Geelong, Carlton, Fremantle, Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. It is a great round of footy, round 17. I'll go ahead and show you guys my ladder, or my predicted ladder for the end of the round. Here's my predicted ladder after round 17. Of course, as you can see, lots and lots of movement. So as I said before, round 17 looks to be a great round of footy. Thank you guys for watching. Please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you guys will never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys for watching. So bye everyone. Flame Footy out.